Undisputed, the Mexican Monster Pack out now.
Boxing King Media, we're back here for another episode of the Brutally Honest podcast, right in the middle of summer holidays. Dom, I see you've been in Devon.
Been down. No, I've been to Devon. No,
is it Devon?
Yeah, Devon. Been to Weymouth that way. You know, holiday in UK this year because it's that expensive to go abroad. I can't afford it now. I'm not a top trainer, so I'm having to, go basic camping, roughing it really.
Fair play. As long as the kids are enjoying it, that's the most important.
Yeah, the
thing.
kids enjoy it.
Did you bump into any fans of the podcast?
You know what? It's surprising. Everywhere I go, I was actually in the sea one day, lovely clear day, and the sea was clear, and I'm swimming in the sea at this popular spot, and this fella come past me. Dominic Ingle, mate. Wow, how's Kilbrook doing? Is he fighting again? I went, no, mate. He's retired. What are you doing down here? I went, roughing it, pal. And he swam out with his missus and spent about half an hour in the thing and came out. But yeah, then I was on the beach at Weymouth. Another kid came out of the sea. He was from Rotherham, and he watches all the interviews. So every day I went out, I bumped into somebody who at least seen the videos and the Boxing King Media interviews.
That's
so
good.
your reach is far and wide.
That's good. It's good. Well, I was reading. A few weeks ago they were talking about you putting weight on, and they're always talking about your biceps. You got a lookalike now, and I've never picked up on this, but it's actually quite a good comparison. I don't know if you know
Shrek?
It's not Shrek, no. Have you ever heard of a guy called Kurt Angle?
Oh, Kurt Angle's been around for years, hasn't he? Yeah. Bit better looking than me, yeah.
Have you seen him since he shaved his head off?
No.
I'm going to have to show you now. So it's actually quite...
I didn't know he was still around. He must be 100 years old.
Yeah, he's still knocking about, but it's a mad comparison. I think if anybody... He's got a bit of a beard going, but if you look at it, it's quite freaky, actually.
Well, we had some comments. You know what? He looks more like Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And do you know what else he looks more like? He looks like... There's actually... I'll tell you what he looks like, and I'll show you the picture afterwards. A kid who was Mr. Britain bodybuilding. I'm sure you'll like this shout out, Paul Thompson. And we met him in Fortaventura, in the Ingle gym, and I saw this big fella training, and strong fella in his 40s, and he was competing, did his own stuff, got talking to him. The following year he won the Mr. Britain. He's retired now, but absolutely tremendous physique, and he's actually a spitting image of Kurt Angle. So we'll have to try and we'll actually find this picture of Paul Thompson. We'll give him a shout out because he's a big boxing fan. I know he follows this channel as well.
Good stuff. Well, but before we talk about the boxing stuff, we was talking off camera, and you just mentioned to me earlier that you flew on Concord. I'm just going to Google how many people flew on Concord, as in a number, because I don't think many people must have done, because obviously it got took down.
Yeah, but it was. Do you
want to share the story about you flying on Concord? Because I think people find.
Well, we had the last fight with Naz, when Naz boxed Wayne McCulloch. We had an issue. I think I've spoken about this before. We had an issue getting his visa, and we're down at the American Embassy, and it's the week of the fight. It's about a Monday. And we're having trouble. We'd been the previous week to get his visa, and they weren't issuing it for whatever reason. And then it actually got to, I think it got to the Monday, and we managed to get it, and we needed to get to America quick. So I said, why don't we? And I always remember, because the promoter was Cedric Krushner, and I said to him, well, why don't we fly Concord? I said, we'll get there in 3 hours. He went, I never thought of that. He said about 8. So we went on Concord. And I think then I remember the tickets being £10,000 return.
Economy?
Well, it's not. It's just one class, because there's only actually 25 rows of 2 seats and 2 seats. It's just 25 rows of 4 seats. And I always remember on that plane was Ted Heath, the former Prime Minister, David Frost, who did Through the Keyhole, and he actually asked Naz, when Naz came back, if he could do Through the Keyhole. Edward Heath, the former Prime Minister, and a few other people. Obviously, I was sat with Frank Warren all the way on that flight. So we had a good ride out of that, flying above the earth, Mach 2, something like 50,000 feet. I bumped into a couple of flat Earth theorists, and I said, "There's no way the Earth flat." I said, "I've been up that high." I said, "You can see the curve of the Earth," so I'm never going to be sold on that. But it is quite an experience, and I think the following year, because I went in '98. It could have been later on that year. Well, actually, that was October. So it could have been maybe a year or two after, might have even been a year after, one of them crashed. I think two probably crashed in total, and then they took them out of service because they'd been going for about 20 years by that time. So yeah, I was very lucky to be on that in more ways than one.
What did your dad make of being on Concord?
My dad didn't actually go.
Did not go?
No, they'd already flown over. Standard, I think they went on Virgin. They were already over. Well in advance, we were late. I was doing Naz's diet at the time. He'd fell out with my dad, so I was kind of training him under my dad's instructions. And we travelled on Concord. And I remember Naz splashing out on that plane and buying all his brothers expensive watches and stuff like that, throwing it around like it went out of fashion. But interesting. And I sat with Frank Warren all the way there. I had a talk to Frank. But that was quite an experience, you know. Never to be done again.
100% part of history. I was just reading, it flew for about 30 years and 2.5 million people, and you're one of them that's probably been on there.
And you know the good thing, you got a diary, you got a pen, a pencil, you got all these things that you could only get if you'd been on Concord. I've got them somewhere, I think kids have got them, but yeah, you get like a welcome pack when you get on it, and I was just thinking, how lucky am I to be on this plane. I just remember one of Naz's brothers afterwards on the way back saying, "Oh, Dominic, I've got a good idea. Why don't you fly back on Virgin? You can play old games, watch old movies, have as much to drink as you want." I went, "Listen, mate," I said, "I'm not cashing my ticket in." I says, "I don't even drink anyway." I says, "I'm going back home in 3 hours on Concord, there and back." I says, "You're not cashing my ticket in. I think you want to cash my ticket and probably pocket the difference," but I weren't having it. But what a tremendous experience. Got to look in the cockpit before we set off. And yeah, good experience overall.
Was it like leg room and all that?
Do you know what? It's not a big plane. It's not very big at all. That's the thing, the surprising thing about Concord. It's not. And I think there was a program years ago. Well, there was a program years ago called Wicker's World. It was Alan Wicker, and he was always talking about modern things, what were happening. I just remember, I think the credits for that film, he's got Concord taking off or landing. I think it was Concord. So you know, quite iconic. But it's not a big plane at all. It's surprising when I saw it parked up in Heathrow, how big it wasn't. But you know, what an experience.
Lucky man. Well, I mentioned your dad there because we had the pleasure of watching the movie Giant, a pre-screening done just for a select few people. I'm going to let you speak about it. You know, obviously you can't talk too much about it because people need to watch it, but they haven't announced the release date, so don't mention that. And just tell me a little bit as to what fans can expect now that you've seen the movie. First of all, are you happy with the role that?
Yeah, you know what? Obviously a bit apprehensive with when they did this film, because you know, it's people's interpretation. The director, you know, the producer, everybody working on it. Obviously, it's Sylvester Stallone's production company is behind it. So I kind of kept an open mind, and we watched it on Friday. Me and the family, John's family, and you know, very surprised how it's turned out. I think it's going to be a massive hit. And I'm very critical. You know, if I don't like a film, I'll not watch it, or I'll walk out. I won't sit there for an hour, 45 minutes, you know, twiddling my thumbs, something I don't want to watch. But it hooks you from the beginning. It's a great storyline. I mean, we spent hours and hours, me and John, talking to the people making the film, and you know, the guy who put it all together, Rowan. You know, give them all the stories, the anecdotes about Naz, the boxing, my dad, and they've pieced it all together, and they've made a tremendous job of it. So I honestly think it's going to be a massive hit.
And Pierce Brosnan playing your dad?
Pierce Brosnan, you know, he's got some of my dad's, well, he's got a lot of my dad's mannerisms down to a T. He plays a very good part. It's very convincing. You know, I think I said to you earlier that there was about 30 minutes of the film left. I was absolutely bursting. I'd been drinking coffee, bursting to go to the toilet, and I didn't even want to get up. And it only took me 5 minutes to get there and back, you know, to miss 5 minutes of that film. So, you know, I held it in, watched the film, and it's you know, they've done a tremendous job on it. I couldn't be more pleased, really. Good
stuff. Well, we're looking forward to that. The release date will be out soon, more trailers, etc. But yeah, keep an eye out for the movie Giant, a bioepic on Brendan Ingle and Prince Nassim Hamid and the relationship they had and the early days till the end. So boxing wise, Dom, I think the first thing I want to speak about is, I think it's good to just round this topic off. We obviously last spoke after the Daniel Dubois Usyk fight. You know, we did a bit of a post-fight review on that. One of the big talking points that's come since, you know, a few days after we spoke is the whole thing about, oh, did he quit? Did he not quit? There's a lot of people that have been debating online, and also obviously you've had boxers, retired boxers, saying that he quit. Some people are saying he hasn't got it in him. He doesn't want to be in the ring. Some people are saying. What I want to ask you is the opening question: does it really matter whether he quit or didn't quit?
Not really, because it'll matter to him, because as a man, he's always going to have that in the back of his mind, and somewhere down the line, in years to come, it will probably play on his mind. At the minute, they got a tremendous amount of money, him and Usyk, for that fight. The fans obviously contributed to that. They went to get the money's worth, and maybe they wanted him to get up and get splattered, so it was more dramatic. But Daniel Dubois, he's been in tough fights, he's been in hard fights. Like I say, a couple of months ago, he beat Joshua, and he was hailed as the greatest, and he did a great job. He was under fire, and he finished off Anthony Joshua. And then he got him Usyk, and he got, he kind of got his comeuppance, so to speak. So I think he said he's retired, innit? As he said he's retired, Dubois.
No, who said that?
I don't know. I thought I'd seen somewhere a clip going up saying he's going to retire or whatever. But
there's people saying that he should fight.
All right, maybe not then. But look, only he knows. I mean, Usyk can punch, and Dubois probably thought, I want to walk out of this ring instead of going out on a stretcher unconscious.
Well, that last punch, I want to ask you, because you've been ringside to a lot of crazy punches landing. That was as clean as you can get.
Yeah, no, there's no.
When he was on the floor, what I want to ask you, Dom, is because some people have talked about the fact that he's got up and he's walked to his corner. Could there be an element of him basically being away with the fairies? Like literally,
it could be concussed. The thing is, unless you're in a clear mind, do you understand? And he's been in that position. He's probably been in that position before. That look at Anthony Joshua when he boxed Ruiz, and he kept the first fight, and there was something not right about it. There was all the rumours before he'd been dropped in sparring, everything else, and he went into that fight. And there wasn't something right about him, and he was getting on top of Ruiz, and every time he got clipped, he kind of went to pieces and then regrouped, and it happened 2 or 3 times, and he just got in his corner, he stood up, went in the corner, and the referee's saying, come on, and he kind of pulled himself out of the fight, which was a wise move, because he realised himself he wasn't in a position, to continue. And people said, oh, he quit, but it was a smart move, because after that, he came back, he beat Ruiz, and he had, better fights after that, and he gave fantastic accounts of himself against Usyk. So, if he hadn't done that and gone into a fight and Ruiz had levelled him and knocked him out cold, we would probably never seen the rest of the fights with Anthony Joshua. So it's all right, people saying, he quit and everything else. There'll be a reason why. I don't personally think Daniel Dubois is a quitter. I think Audley Harrison's a bottle job compared to him. We're going to talk about Audley later on. I don't think Usyk is. Dubois is, because of the fights he's had. When he boxed Joyce and people saying he quit. Well, no, he got a fractured eye socket or whatever. So it was well justified. So they're the 2 occasions he's got beat. Obviously Usyk the first time, but I don't think Daniel Dubois is a quitter. I don't think he's that type of kid, to be honest.
It's like I say, it's an interesting topic, because a lot of people, ex-world champions who've said that he quit, he's not made for the game, etc. But obviously, like you touched on there, he's obviously stopped Anthony Joshua, Jarrell Miller, Hrgovic. The first 2 fights, Hrgovic and Miller, he took a lot of punishment, and he was still in there.
Yeah, but you think he's lost to the greatest heavyweight apparently this era, Usyk, twice, and he got beat by Joyce with an injury, and it was a legitimate injury, and he did the right thing and pulled himself out, because a lot of boxers' careers are finished on that fractured eye socket. One was what do you call him there? Amateur, we were talking about it the other day.
Oh yeah, Ogogo.
Anthony Ogogo was one of them, and there's been others. So it was a wise move. He got it repaired, and he carried on and had so many more fights after, probably 7 or 8. He's made his money. So all the years of him training and boxing's paid off. And like I say, it's easy from people on the outside looking and saying he's a quitter, he's a bottle job. But realistically, when you look at the rest of the fights, he hasn't done, has he?
Well, here's another way of phrasing the question, because there'll be people listening to you saying that and be hammering in the comments right now saying, Dom, you're chatting shit, blah, blah, blah. But here's another question for you. does he owe it to the fans for getting up and going out on his shield and getting splattered, trying to win a fight? Does he owe that to the fans? Does he owe that to anyone?
Not really, no. Not at all. Like I've said,
Why do fans think that fighters do?
Well, it's different, isn't it? It's like, it's almost gladiatorial, isn't it? That, he's not fighting really for the public, he's fighting for himself. He's probably representing the UK and people get behind him. But it's funny because when I look back, and this might be through rose-tinted spectacles, when I look back at Frank Bruno's career, who the British public absolutely loved and got behind him, when he got beat, nobody ever slagged him off. He got beat against Tyson and the stuff he did, and all right, he didn't. I don't think he got beat in circumstances like Dubois did, but he always gave his best, Frank, and sometimes he was well beaten. I remember one time it was James Bone Crusher Smith, but people loved him, and it's like boxing's changed these days. He had loyal fans then, no matter what Frank Bruno did, everybody loved him and got behind him. But these days, fans are very, very fickle. 1 minute you're fantastic, and the next minute they won't even spit on you if you're on fire. So the fan base has kind of changed. People want they want a lot more damage doing. They want it to be more carnage, more dramatic.
Here's another spin. If less, God forbid, if he got up and then Usyk took him out and he went out on a stretcher.
Yeah.
Who would they be blaming then?
Well,
Would they be blaming Don Charles for not throwing the towel in?
Yeah, there's always going to be somebody to blame. It's like I always refer back to this with Kelbrook and Golovkin, and when I had to stop that fight, Kelbrook finished on his feet. People say it was a wrong fight for Kelbrook, it ruined him. That fight, it didn't really ruin him. You have to have them fights. He made a lot of money in that fight. He went up and he came back down, and he got beat by Errol Spence. But Kel did his thing, and there were people at the end booing because they want to see him get levelled. But luckily, Kel had so many more fights. I think that was 2016. He still boxed for another 6 years. After that, I made plenty of money, and then finished off with Amir Khan. What a great night! Now, if the decision hadn't been taken, then and Kel didn't want me to pull him out. He was surprised. I never said I was going to pull him out. People were like afterwards, and he went. I could tell he weren't particularly happy. But looking back in time and over the long run, it was the best decision to be made because he carried on boxing. His career lasted, and it's the same with Dubois. He got the eye injury, and he came back from that, and he had a successful career, became a world champion. He had wins, and he made plenty of money. And you're a long time forgot when you finish boxing. You know what I mean? And it's good that you need to have a healthy bank balance, so that the damage you've sustained, further down in life, it was worth it. The risk was worth it.
And then the other debate is now some people are suggesting AJ should jump back in with Dubois, and there was some debate yesterday. I think Spencer Oliver was watching him. He backs AJ to overturn the result. What's his name? Duke McKenzie. Otherwise, he's saying it'd be a bad move for AJ to rematch him. If they were to fight again, based on what you've seen from both men now, what do you think happens?
Well, it's a 50-50 fight, but you've only got to look at the way Deontay Wilder went on the slide, and people were thinking they were going to do this and do that. It's like they're both damaged, but I always said that Dubois is still younger, and he got caught well by Usyk, and Usyk had got his number, from the first fight. I personally think that AJ's got a lot more wealth. He's been in the comfort zone a long time, and his kind of desire to be that up and coming fighter is gone. And sometimes you just can't turn that back. I just think it's got to that point, no matter what he does, he's not going to be able to nothing. But I still think Daniel Dubois still got something left. He got caught with a good shot, and maybe once again he saved himself by not carrying on for another fight. So let's see if it happens. But if it does happen, who do you think I'm going to put my money on?
You tell me.
Dubois.
Okay. Well, AJ, there's strong rumours he might fight Jake Paul. Do you want to see that? Should it be allowed to happen? Because some people are saying it'd be dangerous.
What does it say then when it goes to pantomime level then? And what is it going to be, one of these non-disclosure agreements when we don't know what's going on? I mean, if Jake Paul beats Anthony Joshua, where does that put Anthony Joshua's career in the big perspective of things, in the big in history?
Well, Usyk's also apparently negotiating a fight with Jake Paul, but it's not a boxing match. He's saying it'd be murder, I think I got told, if he fought him in a boxing match. But he's basically suggested to have an MMA fight with him. So it's kind of 50-50.
I think, I think Usyk's got enough money. Why would you do that? I think you've got to, Usyk's an hero in his country and he's known worldwide. I think you've got to not compromise yourself in that situation for more money, sell your soul to the devil for more money. What's the point? He's got more money. AJ, Usyk, they've both got more money they can ever spend. So what's the point? What's more valuable than that is the reputations. And Anthony Joshua, regardless of getting beat by Dubois like he did, he's still got a good reputation. He's still been an ambassador for boxing. He still played a part in the history of it in the last 10, 15 years, regardless. But he doesn't really want to be carrying on and getting beat by every Tom, Dick and Harry and ruining all that, because he did achieve a lot and he put boxing on the map. So it'll diminish all that if he goes down that route of, especially Usyk, if he goes down that route of fighting Jake Pauls and doing MMAs and stuff, what's not, boxing. Muhammad Ali did it one time with a wrestler, I think. It was a shocking fight. George Foreman once did a similar kind of thing where he boxed about 4 or 5 different opponents in the same night, one after the other. So I don't think it really, apart from the novelty fights, I don't think it really does anything for the careers.
And just you mentioned George Foreman, that reminds me. I just want to give a quick mention. I don't if you have any memories of this fighter, but he passed away recently. But unbelievable fighter, and obviously your gym's based off defensive work. And Dwight Quit, a guy that fought a lot. He fought Foreman. He fought. What else did he fight?
Didn't he have tremendous fights with Matthew Sad Muhammad?
Yep, great fighter.
Yeah.
Unbelievable skill
Yeah,
set.
very good. Seen some of his clips when he's pulling faces and dropping his hands and beating people up, and then he came across George Foreman and he actually gave George Foreman a load of problems, and then George's size took over. But yeah, very good fighter. And so another legend gone.
Your dad must have been a fan of him.
Yeah, my dad watched all them fights. Like I say, you watch them type of fights back in the day, and you learn from it, and you see what moves they're doing. But yeah, it's sad. A lot of fighters dying too early, probably.
Yep, I urge any young fighter watching this, if you're a fan of this podcast, watch some YouTube videos of Dwight Qawi, Qawi.
I think didn't he change his name? That weren't originally his name, were it?
Was it not? I don't know.
Yeah, I think he did something else before he changed it to Muhammad Qawi. You'll have to look at that one.
Dwight Braxton, his name was.
There you go.
I'm assuming he become Muslim and changes it.
Yeah, I remember. And I just thought, I remember watching the fight, because obviously I watched a lot when I was younger, and I'm watching this Dwight Braxton. I think, he's an handful. And then the next time I saw him, because we didn't have the internet, you just saw things on videos, and it come out Dwight, Muhammad, whatever, and I'm thinking, he looks like that Dwight Braxton. And I think you probably, if you look in his history, I think he came out of prison as well. He was in prison. So very, very tough character. But you get from Dwight Braxton to Dwight Muhammad Qawi, whatever, it's Qawi or whatever. Yeah, it's you remember them things, and those things stick out because of the fighter that they were. They were standout fighters. They weren't wishy-washy. So when things like that happened, the name change, you think, and I think even with Matthew Sad Muhammad, he was another one who changed his name as well. It was that kind of period of time when they were changing the name. Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay Muhammad Ali. Obviously, that was a lot earlier. So there's been a lot of that going on, back in them days. And I think we're talking then, when that was happening, we're talking 80s.
Moving on to another couple of subjects. Big talking point, boxer and their TV contract. I think it's pretty obvious that Sky haven't renewed with them now. We've not heard nothing from Sky. There's been strong rumours that they may end up on BBC One or BBC iPlayer. They've got a lot of fighters. You've got Adam Azim, Callum Simpson, Ben Whittaker, Karen Dubois, Fraser Clark, loads of other fighters that they've invested in. Before we talk about their future, the question I've got for you is, like, you've been a trainer, manager. Why on earth, like from their point of view, why on earth have Sky invested so much money in building these stars and now risking them all going elsewhere?
Well, they're obviously not contracted to Sky, are they? They're contracted to the promoter, which is Ben SHALOM. And, it seems that Sky aren't happy with Ben Shalom's performance as a promoter. And so, these fighters are legally tied up to him, so they can't. It doesn't matter what Sky want to do, they can't do it because they're tied up with another promoter. So it's like you have to weigh up whether those fighters are doing the numbers on Sky enough to justify Sky keeping it going. And obviously they've just cut the losses. They're not doing what, they're not getting what Sky want, or dealing with Ben Shalom is just too difficult, and maybe he's pricing himself out for the next contract. I don't know. But, at some point you have to look at the sunk cost value of how much is Sky going to keep throwing in to keep boxing alive. And obviously they've worked it all out, and it's not worth their investment to keep these stars going. Do you understand? So as much as you might class them as stars, we mentioned Callum Simpson, decent kid. Adam Aziz, he's a prospect.
How many people in the UK can sell 15,000 tickets in a stadium?
But you've got, it's all right selling 15,000 tickets, but you've got to think about realistically, whether people like it or not, the biggest promoters in the UK are Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren, and that's where they are. Ben Shalom's had his foot in the door, but he's not. He's not they've been the biggest two promoters for the last 15-20 years. Well, Matchroom and Frank Warren. So everybody else is trying to get in on the game, and they've brought the biggest fights. Yeah, Ben Shalom's had a few big fights, but in boxing money talks, and I wouldn't be surprised in the next year to 2 years that these fighters like Adam Azim and Callum Simpson, they're probably not going to be getting what they want off boxer, because of the way money works. Where's the money coming from? Well, they're not going to be turning money over on BBC iPlayer or on BBC TV. They're not going to be getting that money. So it seems that Shalom will hold on to these fighters and then probably put them into fights on other people's platforms.
Well, there's another rumour, again, this is from TalkSport, that they're suggesting that a lot of these fighters, especially the big names, have got a clause in their contract. If Ben loses a Sky deal, their contracts are void. And if you ever come across something like that,
of course, it's because we've done deals with Eddie and we've done deals with Frank or with fighters, and it says, but it don't. They were smart. They didn't put in Sky as they just put a mainstream broadcaster, and that's it. So whatever, in the period of time I dealt with Frank, he were with Sky, he did with ITV, he did various ones, but he always kept hold of the fighters because they knew how to word a contract. And that's the thing, and if they've got no TV deal, then your contract's void. So that's probably another mistake there. Ben Shalom being a bit green, where it's going to probably cost him. But ultimately, boxers go where the money is and where the TV is, and regardless of that, being on BBC iPlayer, boxers don't. They want to be on Sky. They want to be on they want people to know who they are. They want to be on the big channels, broadcast worldwide, and that's.
Audley Harrison got £1 million contract in 2001 with the.
Well, that says it all. So that's 20 odd years ago, and that was probably the last time that the BBC invested in boxing. But before that, we had Harry Carpenter. The boxing was big on the BBC. It was on the Albert Hall. It was a good channel for boxing, but BBC followed Audley Harrison through the Olympics in 2000, and decided, this is going to be a good fella to get behind. But I think by the time they'd finished that, in about 2 or 3 years later, it left enough of a bitter taste in their mouth not to pursue boxing again.
Why is that, you think?
I just think Audley Harrison took the mick a bit. He didn't, I think he boxed a load of nobodies. Well, not nobodies, but people he was going to beat. And I think, I remember boxed Mark Crenshaw was a butcher. He boxed Dominic Negus, who was a bouncer, he was a good kid actually, he decent fighter, Dom. And Matthew Ellis from Blackpool, who was I think a stripper or a strippergram. He looked the part, so they were the notable people on his record. I always think to that, he snatched defeat out of the jaws of victory. He was soundly beating Michael Sprott, soundly beating him. Give him a good hiding. I think in that maybe the last round, Michael Sprott hit him with a shot and completely flattened him, and that was the end of it. So I think that's enough. That was enough. I don't think I was on the BBC, but with Audley Harrison, I think the BBC dealing with him was enough to put him off boxing for obviously nearly a quarter of a century.
So if he does land the BBC contract, is that a good move, bad move?
Well, yeah, I just can't see it happening, to be honest. He's just, like, the big names on the BBC back in the day was, I think Colm won the Olympics in 2004. So, and they got behind Amir Khan, the BBC. I always remember that, watching that. They got behind Ollie Harrison. I think David A 2004 as well.
Something like that, yeah.
So, you look at all these fighters who the BBC followed in the Olympics because they covered it. There was only Ollie Harrison who got a kind of deal off the back of it. Or I always remember we were at a show and he just turned in professional, and my brother walked past him and he pulled my brother. And he went, yeah, why aren't you guys not interested in me? And I jumped around and said to him, because you're not very good. He was like, you what? But I didn't rate him, Ollie Harrison. He's one of them big guys whose bark was much worse than his bite. I never rated him.
Well, I'm going to set up a Boxing King Media WhatsApp group where we're going to try and interact with the fans and maybe have like a bit of a section where fans can maybe ask you some questions. So you're going to see it on the screen, a barcode, just scan it and then just hit up the link, and then you'll be able to directly contact the people at Boxing King Media. And if you've got any questions for Dom or any of the other content,
just do me a favour, don't put my number in.
No, it's a link, so it's not going to be a number, so nobody will be able to ring you or give you any prank calls. And then the other aspect of it is, just for people that join that WhatsApp group, I'm going to give away this Anthony Joshua hoodie. You can't get it anymore anywhere. I've had it for quite a while.
Is that? I've seen that hoodie. Is that with that big hoodie protector in front?
No, it's not that
chin
one.
Protector in.
No, it's not that one. No.
So if you get it, you can absorb it. Not that one.
No, it's unworn, and it's something that he released.
Oh, it's an original off him, is it?
Yeah, it's from his brand. He released it a while ago, so I'm giving it away. So the people that join up the WhatsApp group, I'll do something random where I might ask a question in the group, and whoever gets it right first will get the hoodie. But you can see it on your screen right now, and there'll be more giveaways in that group. So,
well, do you know what? I'll donate an Ingle gym tracksuit to that thing. We got some stuff. What we're gonna start selling. We said this last time, just getting it set up. But yeah, so they come in medium, large, and small, 3 types. We'll donate to one.
There you go. So Boxing King Media WhatsApp group, we're going to be giving away stuff on there. But yeah, Dom, that's it really. Thank you very much. And also, when Dom's got some offers on his book, we'll drop them in the group as well. Thank you very much.
Respect isn't given, it's earned. In blood.
Undisputed, the Mexican Monster Pack out now.